Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of Factions of Freedom. I'm your host, Noiser, Freedom Faction, whichever one you prefer, and I have titled this episode Prophetic, Politicking, Daze of Pandemonium, and Artificial Reality, because they are for sure trying to scramble our brains and distort everything we see. But don't believe me, trust your own eyes. Don't hear it from myself. Hey, I'm just trying to do my job and help you guys out, help us get to where we are trying to go. Now, before we actually jump into the episode, a few updates for you guys. Make sure you're checking out all the links in the description bar below, as well as all the buttons that I take the time to cleverly craft for you guys for easy navigation. We're going to be going through some website maintenance, switching up as we draw Season 7 to a close, so I hope you guys are taking advantage of it. I'll make a more formal announcement about all the other updates that we have lined up for you guys, but we have reformed our exclusive membership, so I hope you guys are checking out the tiers. Really, your guys' support is going to help carry us into the future. I cannot stress that enough. We're introducing more content onto our exclusive members section, as well as uploading videos to Real.video. I want to make sure you guys download the show notes, because you can get all of this and more in a legible fashion. And some people have told me that it actually helps with following along with the show. But that's all I really have for you. And with that being said, let's start the show. Salutations, my friends. Salutations. Wow. I don't, as I keep saying, it's not going to slow down. And I'll tell you why. Because it's a certain kind of spirit that's working right now. And I want to go ahead and dedicate the start of this episode, the intro, sort of to the spirit of America. Okay, the spirit of this, the idea of this spirit. What's going on, right? I kind of went over this in the previous episode where I had this Proud Boy on, and we talked about this type of stuff. And it felt really good actually being proud of something, being happy about what's going on. We get caught up in all the politics. We never really think about the spirit, the soul. We're heavily spiritual over here on the show. We talk about a lot of things, but there is for sure a spirit of wickedness running through the land. Spirit of lawlessness, right? But this spirit in America, right? This idea is that we're rebels, we're revolutionaries, we're renegades. For sure, there's Freemasons. There's also philosophers. There's crooks, but there's also bastards. When I mean bastards, I mean people of royal bloodline that have come through and made something of themselves here. We have a lot of things to talk about in this episode: migration, immigration, China, America, the domestic terrorism, you name it, man. But I wanted to use this time to let people know that I personally did not think I would be in this position talking about these types of things. And as I find myself being here, I won't lie to you. It's a very powerful feeling getting on here and talking with you good people about these types of things. It's an honor to be here. And that's what I'm saying, is this is that spirit that's kind of filling me. And I talk about, I'm sure you guys notice it out there, wherever you are. America, Canada, Europe, Japan, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, North Africa, East Africa. We have a lot of people that listen. Wherever you are, I'm sure you can kind of feel that spirit that's working around. And here in America, for sure, there is some crazy stuff going on. But for the people that are rising in response to it, you're seeing the best and the worst. These are the extremes. But this is why we have to do it. There is no turning back. You cannot put this genie back in the bottle. I talk with so many amazing people. Every day is a blessing to me, and it's a blessing to be here. But you understand things differently, and that's why I'm trying my hardest to fight through all this nonsense, to bring you guys what's really important, to really kind of distill down what's really happening, what's happening to us, where we're going. And as we're moving forward into this new world order, this is, again, why you see me asking you good people, what are we bringing forward? What are we creating? And not many people know. Well, this is why we have to fight for it. The idea of prosperity, You know, again, freedom, the idea of living, you know, without somebody telling you what to do, of being just and moral, of just being, you know, decent, wholesome. That's just like archaic now. Just like the family, that's something that's becoming archaic. And when I talk about prophetic politicking, you know, sorry I don't have any articles up for you good people. I'm kind of going off the cuff here. I'm talking about, you know, we used to have more people that were Christian oriented on the show. We used to talk about more Bible verses. We used to have people praying for you, praying for us, praying for America. Now we got all these occultists, these witches, these warlocks, these people, these Satanists, these Luciferians, all trying to politic me, talk about, oh, well, I'm not doing that. Look, it's the spirit in which you're working from, okay? I talk about this all the time. Wherever I go, and I think it's just, maybe it's the time frame, maybe it's just, you know, and we'll get into this so-called dark matter hurricane. You know, we have astrologists and people that pay attention to all that type of stuff, astronomers, astrologists, I'm not sure. There's some spiritual stuff going on. I really want to, you know, kind of underscore that. I know I'm kind of spending a lot more time than I really needed to with this, but there is a spirit going on, and people are either tuned into it or they're tuned out. And here in America, we have people who are like, you know, renegades and real revolutionaries and rebels. We don't have people who use this kind of authoritarian measure to control people. Okay, now this is the false idea of freedom. This is false prosperity, where you're allowed to live on a chain. What I'm trying to talk to you guys about is basically liberating yourself from these shackles of society. That's basically what we were doing here, exposing this wickedness. Somehow we got up involved talking about all the news, and that's cool, but there are things going on, and I just wanted to intro this episode talking about just that, the spirit of America, and how we are actually meant to bring forward this freedom, and it's dying. It's dying because you see not really many people organizing. I keep trying to think, you know, bro, I keep trying to think it's not that I'm normal. I keep trying to think there's more people out there, and the politics is a good way to reach people, but you got to go deeper than that. The left-right system is a lie. You've got to look at what the politics is actually doing. It's crazy. It's crazy. But with that being said, let's kind of actually start the show. Right? You guys aren't here to hear me talk about all this nonsense. You're here to hear about what's going on, how it pertains to things like the New World Order. Well, apparently, and this is why I wanted to start this segment off with prophetic politicking, with things like the one world government, the New World Order, the one world religion, and all this other stuff that we see kind of going on. Technology is kind of the stepping stone into that. Emmanuel Macron, and we used to discuss a lot of geopolitics too, believe it or not. Emmanuel Macron, who we are learning is basically a handbag for the New World Order. He's called for a European army. Now that's kind of crazy, because what we're talking about is basically the construction of the one world army. Okay, so with the European army, what happens if they just start conscripting all kinds of different people from across the lands, and then just creating this massive force? And here's the other thing. They said they wanted to do it to protect us. So I'm going to go ahead and play for you guys this clip. And for our audio listeners, I'm going to try to talk over them louder, or over Macron, and read you some of the subtitles. But basically, he's saying that he wants a European army to protect himself from America. Let's listen.
Quand je regarde le monde où nous vivons, l'Europe est de plus en plus fracturée. Quand je regarde le monde où nous vivons, vous avez des puissances autoritaires qui nous sommes bousculés par les tentatives d'intrusion dans le cyberespace.
Various intrusions in cyberspace and into our lands. We need to prevent ourselves from threats from Russia and even the United States. When I see President Trump, big from disarmament that was taken in the Middle East.
Au milieu des années 80, qui avait frappé l'Europe.
Let's go ahead and just get
Qui en est la victime? L'Europe et sa sécurité. On ne protégera pas les Européens si on ne décide pas d'avoir une vraie armée européenne. Face à la Russie qui est à nos frontières et qui a montré qu'elle pouvait être menaçante, moi je veux construire un vrai dialogue de sécurité.
As beautiful as French is,
je respecte, qui est européen.
I don't think I understood a word of that. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do instead, because I do want to get this on tape, and I actually do want to cover this with you guys. Let's try this again, and I'll try to go over the actual caption as it plays. So it says, when I look at the world right now, I see a Europe that is more and more fractured. When I look at the world right now, I see re-emerging authoritarian powers rearming themselves at the edges of Europe. We are facing various intrusion attempts into our cyberspace and into our democratic life. Interesting. We need to protect ourselves from China, Russia, and even the United States. When I see President Trump announcing a pullout from a big disarmament treaty that was taken in the middle of the 1980s, in the middle of the missile crisis which had affected Europe, who is going to be the main victim? Europe and its security. We won't protect Europeans unless we decide to create a real European army. With Russia, that has shown that it can be a threat. I want to build a real security front. Interesting. So there you go. We're having French President Emmanuel Macron warning that he wants Europeans to be protected without calling themselves. This is the crazy thing, too, that kind of went on with this whole statement. Now, if you guys go out and go listen to the full clip, he talks about how nationalism is a betrayal on patriotism. So I'm not even going to get into a discussion about the 1984 doublespeak in which that dude is trying to go into. What I am trying to tell you is we are seeing just that, the dissolving of nation, the dissolving of the border, right? Here in America, we have the migrant caravan, which has just reached our southern border. But CNN's Jim Acosta said, oh, they were hundreds of miles away. Yeah, well, so is your White House press credentials. And now we're having to deal with this issue, okay? Now, I think maybe, last year or even the year before that, we covered the immigration invasion. We covered all the other stuff that went on with that. This is a plan. This is Agenda 2030. This is Agenda 21 even. This is the multicultural agenda. The idea behind it is to break down the barriers, the barrier, the borders, the warriors, and to continue on with this trend, of kind of globalization, of globalism, right? I caught into this too on the previous episode with our guest, but we talked about how Antifa is increasing its violence, and it's also going to diversify. If you guys listen to the episode I had with Charles Casson of Truth is Terrorism, I talked about that as well. These anti-fascists are soon going to become the eco-fascists. I just have a feeling that it's going to be that kind of future. I have a whole page, a whole series of notes about this equality thing that they're trying to push onto us. You see, this is, again, more tactics of the New World Order to come in the name of peace and security. All you have to offer up is your freedom and your individuality. Join the collective. Join us. All right? And so I'm going to play for you guys a clip of Antifa outside of Tucker Carlson's house just last week. And now they're saying they're expanding their hit list. Let's take a listen.
Tucker Carlson, you're outside your home to protest of fascism and racism. You promote hate that's led to an ideology that has led to thousands of people dying by the hands of the police, to trans women being murdered in the streets. Your policies promote hate, and we might even know where you sleep at night.
We know where you sleep at night. We know where you sleep at night.
All right. All right. Okay. Now that we've let them speak, this is what I find so crazy about the time frames that we're living in. I'll say this real quick, and then I'll get into this article. How are they removing people such as the Free Thought Project and the anti-media, but they are allowing ISIS, Antifa, all these other people to operate? they are somehow removing people who disseminate this information and explain these things, but promoting chaos. We put this article up November 9th. It's from End Times Headlines. It's by Ricky Scaparo. It says, Antifa expands its hit list as political violence escalates. When a mob of left-wing Antifa activists descended Wednesday night on Fox News personality Tucker Carlson's D.C. home, it signaled a new phase in the political violence and angry confrontations that now are targeting the news media. Political violence has been rising in the U.S. since 2012, according to the Global Terrorism Database. Increasingly aggressive activists have pushed political confrontation to the limit since 2016. Accosting Republican lawmakers and Trump administration officials in restaurants and in the halls of Congress. And now they are going after conservative journalists at their homes. Tucker Carlson, we will fight. We know where you sleep at night. The activists allied with Antifa chanted outside Mr. Carlson's home. And so it goes on to talk about, what Antifa is, the other things that they're doing. And it says that security details have been assigned to Brett Kavanaugh, as well as Judiciary Committee Chairman Charles E. Grassley of Iowa and Jeff Flake of Arizona. And you know what's strange? I'm going to go ahead and stop right there because that's what I find so strange. I got a memory. I might not be able to go so far back on the page and pull these types of things up with you guys. I remember covering these types of things because they said that political violence is going to escalate because of Obamacare. People were going to start rioting because of Obamacare. So they wanted to start getting senators or police officers with their senators. This is at least a year old. And now we see them still stoking the flames. I laughed at Ted Cruz getting heckled out of the restaurant. And now we actually see who Beto O'Rourke is, how he is actually being funded by George Soros and all these other people. So, now we're having to stand for Ted Cruz. It's interesting, very, very interesting. And these are the time frames that we're finding ourselves in. But as we see more of this violence and this lawlessness unfold, right, it's going to create this kind of civil unrest. It's preparing us for more domestic terrorism, for this civil emergency. How long do you think it'll be until we actually start seeing more of these attacks take place? You see, we're talking about this 1984 doublespeak where people are being radicalized, double thought. Yeah, this isn't happening, but it's happening, so it's not happening. Again, this is that spiritual warfare that is manifesting right now. The dark side rising. And I hate that it has to get boiled down to politics because there's, I guess, been segments talking about it. But it's, again, just the lawlessness that's happening. I'm sure I'll get into this sometime later on too, but things like the legalization of marijuana, the popularization of drugs. Now I think it's kind of dangerous because you got, things like Bayer, Monsanto, and Microsoft all getting involved. And we're, again, becoming more desensitized, denaturalized, and demoralized, all of this. But what I'm trying to say is I feel like to a degree we are all going through a long-term form of mind control, of trauma-based mind control, to where we are being desensitized to the violence. We're used to it, you see. And that's why I find it strange too. We're going to see this in the future. People are going to kind of break off into groups, in sects, and I say that S-E-C-T-S. But I'm going to play for you guys this clip of this new software called Face First. This is facial recognition. This is why you have Antifa and these other domestic terrorists, these saboteurs, these instigators. And I want to say this real quick because I really think we kind of hit it on the head in that episode with Treble Clef. Some of these people are also paramilitary troops. They're ISIS. They are homeless people. They are disenfranchised kids. They are people who would take, imagine this real quick, and I'll play this clip for you guys. Imagine this. You're one of these people panhandling, you're homeless, you're panhandling on the side of the road. Somebody comes up to you, they say they'll give you $500. If you say no, eventually he'll get somebody that says yes. He just wants them to go take care of something. Do you like Donald Trump? No. Guy goes and does something. He eats well, like for a month. He starts looking for this guy. Guy gives him $1,000, says, hey, go find more people like you, and if you sign them up, I'll pay you. You see this kind of scheme that starts building here, paying for the destabilization, because people who aren't informed about what's going on, they're happy to make the news, not really knowing what that means for everybody else. The social engineering is what's crazy about everything we see ourselves going through right now. But I'm going to play for you guys this clip of this new software called Face First, and the idea behind it is to basically, I suppose it's reward the users. Like, I don't know. We'll play the clip and then we'll get into it. Here it is.
What if you could stop retail crime before it happens by knowing the moment a shoplifter enters your store? Could you avoid a potentially dangerous situation? And what if you could know about the presence of violent criminals before they act? And what if you could easily identify missing children and victims of human trafficking? Face First, you can stop crime before it starts. The world's only patented enterprise retail face recognition platform proven to radically reduce crime and perform flawlessly across thousands of locations, making it the top choice for big box stores, department stores, grocery stores, pharmacies, and other retail operations. Reduced shrink, safer stores, and fast ROI, all in one turnkey solution. Learn more at facefirst.com.
So cool. So cool. So super cool. So cool. A recent article in biometricupdate.com reveals that the retail stores have a master plan to convince Americans to accept facial biometrics. BU interviewed 4 facial biometric company CEOs, and what they revealed is frightening. The article starts off innocuously enough by telling us that the U.S. retail biometrics is used primarily in loss prevention, but things quickly take a turn for the worse. BU's interview with Face First CEO Peter Tripp is especially disconcerting as he reveals how retailers plan to use a facial recognition opt-in environment. There's another step, though, that exists, which has more to do with consumer loyalty and in consumer experience, that is not quite as expensive as an endeavor, and I think there are quite a lot of folks who are looking at ways of doing that in a friendly opt-in environment where privacy is not the cornerstone issue. Tripp said, "If any of this sounds familiar, it's because they're doing the exact same thing with digital driver's license. Biometric companies are trying to convince Americans to adopt digital driver's licenses by tying them to loyalty rewards programs. Last year, Lincoln Motor Company installed complimentary TSA pre-check biometric scanners in all of their new vehicles so customers can get through their airport and sports stadium check-ins quicker. According to a recent ZDNet article, a new partnership between SureID, a biometric fingerprinting company, and Robbie AI, hey, I know a Robbie, a facial recognition biometric company, could, quote, create a national biometric database. Adding facial recognition from Robbie.ai gives the firms the building blocks of a nationwide database that could be used in a number of settings, from retail authentication and employment verification to more speculative applications like driver identification for keyless self-driving cars. So basically what they're trying to say is, we're going to give you, if you give us your face, we'll give you discounts. If you give us your face, we'll give you discounts. That's great. And if you don't give us your face, guess what? You're still going to be in the database, and you don't get the discount. That's the crazy thing. They're going ahead with the technocracy. This is what I find so dangerous with all this stuff. This is why Antifa wears black. This is why they're communicating offline. This is also why I have a real quick to jump back to Antifa and all this other stuff that we see happening. We need to keep them kind of in the central area so we can kind of keep eyes on them. If they get kicked off these public platforms, all they're going to do is scurry around in the dark and start, you know, coordinating that way. Then we won't know where the attacks are going to come from. I just want to point that out. You know, this is why, again, they're wearing black. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They are very, very clever. These people are taking the time to infiltrate society, and unfortunately, the average American is in like a haze, man. You know, they're intentionally misinformed. It's crazy. You know, you have Facebook over here purging pages, purging police accountability pages, like the Free Thought like Jason Basler's Police the Police, and other places like Cop Block. This is dangerous. We are literally seeing them say, you know what? Cops, they're allowed to, you know, beat, choke, stab, shoot, kill people. They're allowed to do these types of things. They'll be all right. And no, we can't hold them accountable. Check this out. I'll play for you guys this clip, and then we'll take a quick break. But apparently, this is ridiculous to me. Just check out this headline. I'm not even going to try to cleverly word it. Hero security guard stops mass shooting and is killed by cops who showed up after it was over. Like, my lord. Let's take a listen.
Karen and Ravi, we can now tell you that the man who was shot was in fact a security guard at the nightclub. And while the circumstances surrounding the shooting are not very clear at this time, the Midlothian Police Department is telling us that it was one of their officers who shot him after they entered the bar and saw him holding a gun.
How in the world does the security guard get shot by the police? A young man that was literally just doing his job, and now he's gone.
A Chicago church community in search of answers after their organist was shot and killed by a police officer in the south suburbs early this morning. Identified as Jamil Roberson, the 26-year-old was on duty as a bouncer at Manny's Blue Room Lounge in Robbins when he was killed. According to a statement issued by Midlothian police, they were responding to a call for help by Rob.
Wow.
Karen and Ravi, we can now tell you that the man...
Ridiculous. I don't even understand how something like that can happen. Rest in peace to Jamel Robertson. And unfortunately, this is becoming more common. This is what I mean by us being desensitized to the violence. So let me get this straight. Here's America's current predicament. I'm black, right? I get shot for trying to protect myself. Oh, but wait, no. They want to take my guns because I want to protect myself. Oh, wait, no. The migrants that are coming in, that we're just now starting to talk about, they might have weapons, so I shouldn't have a weapon. You see the lawlessness and the lunacy that's going on here? I'm just trying to be sane. I'm just trying to make sense. You know, what I'm trying to really get at is and I talked about this too, at the start of, I think, season 5. What we're seeing is the trumping in of the technocracy. Okay? And I kind of went over this briefly. This is the New World Order. We're seeing this gap grow, right? The collapse is already here. It's better to try to control the collapse rather than try to correct the collapse, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense to people. Globalism is the new Roman Empire. That's why all they care about is entertainment to entrap you. That's why they want to end prosperity. They want to end individuality, end rugged individualism, end the spirit of freedom, of just like going out there to go get it, right? They want you demoralized. Just pay attention to what you see. You know, don't think for yourself. Trust in all these things. Trust in all this authority. Trust in all this expertness. Experts. Trust all these people. You know, it really is crazy. That's what I want you guys to kind of think about as we go to break. It is easier for them to control the collapse rather than correct it. And that's where we find ourselves. Again, I'll say this and we'll take a break. This is what Obama's whole presidency was about. He was supposed to lower us down into a third world nation status. Trump was supposed to come in and just come do anything to try to bring us up, just so we could collapse again. I've talked about this, how he's the bankrupt president. You know, we're seeing that resurgence, you know, that last gas of breath right before we collapse. And this is America. This is why we have to understand the values that we're taking in, because we are for sure going in. You see. And this is how it all happens. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about these California wildfires. You know, things like directed energy weapons, dangerous chemicals being shot into the air, akin to Hurricane Harvey, $25 million in damages, roughly 200 people still missing, and so much more. We'll talk about this on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this. Salutations, my friends. I'm here to talk to you about, that's right, CBD oil. CBD oil can reduce the risk of relapse among alcohol and cocaine addicts, and you know they're trying to flood us with both. According to a 2013 study published in the British Journal of Clinical Pharmacology, CBD was proven to have these benefits: relieving pain and inflammation, having antipsychotic effects, reducing anxiety, helping to fight cancer, relieving nausea, treating seizures, lowering incidences of diabetes, and also promoting cardiovascular health. Realized that in 2014, Purdue Pharma received FDA approval for an opioid drug that claimed to help curb the opioid addiction. This will actually help you curb your usage of opioids as well as your reliance upon them. And remember, guys and gals, stay vigilant. Expose lies and share truth. This is Daze, Freedom Faction, out. If you are listening to my voice, you are the resistance. And Ron Johnson, if you're listening, I'm taking that. I'm going to start trying to do it. Thank you, guys. Or maybe we should come up with our own. Yeah, we're pretty original here. I want to take that. I want to say I'll take it, but I probably won't. I'll come up with something cooler. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in to this edition of Factions of Freedom. I'm your host, Noise Era, Freedom Faction, whichever one you prefer. And it seems like California is always burning. Am I wrong? Like, really? Like, am I wrong? I feel like something's going on there. And here's what I mean. You're going to have to forgive some of the graphical views of this, but I'm going to go ahead and pick up this article, right? It's literally a year old. That's what I also find dangerous and strange. You can find it on our website, factionsoffreedom.gendo.com, and once you're there, I'll put the link in the description bar below. Go into our news section and look at right here. October 16th, 2017, were the California wildfires started by HAARP or directed energy weapons? And we've all seen footage of the infamous tree burning from the inside out. It doesn't make sense. It legit does not make sense. We've seen cars that have been melted, yet the trees are fine. We've seen houses decimated, but the trees are fine. and they tell you, don't worry about it. Right here, for our audio listeners, what I'm showing you is a car who's literally looks like it's been like vaporized. And these are still the fires that are just raging through there. It doesn't seem like they're ever catching any kind of break. Like, that's what I find so mind-boggling. You know, like, I don't know if I'll see if I can get that clip up for you guys, the full clip. But there was a clip going around on social media for people that don't know, that didn't catch it. There was a clip going around on social media where a newscaster on Fox was talking about this thing called Athena. It's like space-based weaponry, right? And basically what she's saying is, with this technology, they're able to this is directed energy weapons. They're able to excite the atmosphere. You see. It's a year, but that's what I find so strange, is it's a year old. And it's circulating because people are paying attention. That's what's important. People are, I think what's even more wild is whenever this stuff happened, people immediately caught on to the fact that this is sketch, this is suspect, there is something about these fires that's not normal. But here, I'm going to pull up this clip for you guys of the Fox News anchor admitting that the government uses directed energy weapons. Let's take a listen.
Lasers sound like the stuff of science fiction, right? Sound completely unbelievable. How could our military possibly be using those in future warfare? Guess what? We've just had a recent breakthrough, more great test results that are making lasers a reality. So it's called Athena. Lockheed Martin makes it, and they've been doing a lot of the pioneering in this laser field. Now, what's really exciting about it is that it's so hard to harness that much power and make it compact enough that it's actually going to make practical sense downrange. And they've proven that they can do that. Recently, they tested it against 5 moving drones, so realistic drones that they might go up against with, enemy forces might send against us, for example, or terrorists might send against us. and it successfully shot down all 5 of the drones. This is huge news because it means that in a realistic, practical setting, it's looking very promising. So it could be ready to field quite soon. So when you see the movies, or you look at comic books or television shows, when you see laser weapons, they tend to be a color, right? Red or green or something like that. Real lasers, one of the key advantages that they provide is that they are invisible. You actually can't see them. You just see this damage suddenly starting to blow something up. So if we take a look now at what the Athena did to a truck. So we're looking at a truck engine, and the Athena within seconds was able to beam right in there, heat the whole thing up, and burn through the engine of this vehicle. So if you imagine if you were in that vehicle, all of a sudden, this hole would start appearing in your engine, and the whole thing would just disappear. That's what these lasers do. Now,
That's crazy.
Key advantages that we should mention.
Let's do that to a state. Let's see what happens.
Ammo. As
oh my gosh.
Power,
unlimited ammo.
Magazine.
Wow.
Downrange, of course, having unlimited ammo can be a huge advantage. Second, it's silent. You don't give the enemy any advance warning that it's coming. Now, the third one I wanted to touch on is that it travels at the speed of light. So not only are we delivering powerful, decisive effects, lethality, we're also doing it so rapidly they don't know what hit them. So if you circle back to that example of being in the car again, that would happen so instantaneously, within seconds, you truly would have no idea what was happening. It would just suddenly start disintegrating, right? Okay. So what can we use these against? So we talked about the vehicle a bit. We talked about how Athena has just proven itself against drones. But in the real world application, our forces could use it against the drones. We could use it against aircraft. We could use it against vehicles on the ground, like we mentioned. We could also use it against fast attack boats. And in fact, Athena's sibling, Adam, a couple years ago proved that it could eliminate these fast attack boats. So if you imagine boats start trying to swarm one of our ships, not a problem for this laser. Burns right through the hull. As you can see right there, it's burning right through the hull. I'm incredibly excited about this news, this great news about the successful testing of Athena. Because it means that we'll be putting these powerful weapons soon. We could put them in the hands of our warfighters and give them even more powerful weaponry to keep themselves safe and also to deliver the effects that we need. They can be used, laser weapons can be used offensively and of course defensively too, to help protect our homeland. Think of our airports that might be under threat from enemy drones. They could be used to protect we can use them statically and used to protect our airports. They could be used to protect our power grid, our nuclear plants. So there's lots of different exciting applications for this technology. It's no longer science fiction, but science fact.
Yep. Right on. I don't know her name, but I'm going to go ahead and say thank you. I'll call her Stacy. Thank you, Stacy. That's very nice. So we're seeing environmental damage with environmental disasters with unnatural damage. They're telling you about these space-based weaponries that they have. The weaponization of space is something that's it should be well commonly known. And I think this is important. We need to go ahead and get this on record. I kind of talked about this as well whenever we had, whenever we were discussing Hurricane Harvey's, Hurricane Maria, and Hurricane Irma. Who benefits from this environmental damage? The country does. The idea is to keep people in population centers. With Puerto Rico, we had all those people coming here, and now we have these migrants still coming here. You have the people in California that are going to be traveling inward. Okay, you had great pages that, like Jay of Truth Is Our Religion, talking about how some of this stuff is being used as a pipeline. This is Agenda 21. Who stands to benefit from these types of things? Well, I'm sure over the coming months we'll hear about how there will be an enormous payout. There will be an enormous payout for the environmental damage that's taking place. Now, again, one of the things I want to get on record, because we're talking about this type of stuff, is one, how the weapon looks, what an actual laser would sound like if it was decimating something, and then Governor Jerry Brown's response to it. So I'm going to go ahead and play for you guys that clip of the laser literally beaming down to what seems like a light pole, and then we'll play that clip of Governor Jerry Brown. Now there's, oh wow, there's just so much to look at here, and I'm again so glad that people were able to just get what was happening right off the bat. From it spread. People were aware of it. People were aware of just like the not the hoax aspect of it, but just like how it could happen. Here, I'm going to play for you guys this clip because we are speaking of JF Truth is Our Religion, of somebody that basically made a parody of how you could start one of these fires. And then we'll have Governor Jerry Brown talking about how these things will continue if we don't adhere to Agenda 21. Let's listen.
Hi, my name is Ed. People ask us here at PG&E, how did you guys really start the wildfires? Overgrown trees and the power lines? Heck no. It ain't easy burning down hundreds of houses. Real high tech. First and foremost, you gotta make sure all your houses have smart meters. That's crucial. Now, on the night you're gonna burn, you gotta chemtrail heavily. That makes the air more conductive. Next, turn up your cell towers to high. That's right, crank them puppies up as high as they'll go. With the chemtrails, this electrifies the air and gives you those beautiful little tiny blue sparks. Now, have local HARP create a strong wind, and as a final stroke, boost up those smart meters. That's right, don't be shy, turn them up all the way. This turns houses into toast. Only really costs us 77 cell towers and some underground cable. But don't try this at home. We're professionals.
Another Rothschild utility.
No shit. Thanks,
Hi,
Ed.
my name is Ed.
Thanks, Ed. And this is important because we need to make it. We need to be aware of these types of things. Again, what will happen in the aftermath? What happens where a forest fire that melts steel and levels homes and leaves the trees there? What happens in a world like that? You see, I'm going to pull up the clip for you guys after this, or I'm going to pull up the slide of the Agenda 21 map and some of all of what it looks like. But here's Governor Jerry Brown talking about some of the fire that's taking place in his state.
Before, this is not the new normal, this is the new abnormal. And this new abnormal will continue. They're going to intensify. Predictions by some scientists are that we've already gone up 1 degree. I think we can expect a half a degree, which is catastrophic, over the next 10 to 12 years.
And you said something a moment ago that I have to follow up on and I have to draw you out on. You said you don't have to lie anymore now that you're not a politician. What did you lie about when you were governor?
It's all a lie.
What did you lie about? What did you lie about?
All right, now here's what. You run for office and the assumption is, oh, I know what to do. You don't. I didn't have a plan for California. Clinton doesn't have a plan.
So you said you had a plan. You said you had a plan for California. You lied because you didn't have a plan.
You say you're going to lower taxes. You're going to put people to work. You're going to improve the schools. The schools are going to stop crime. Crime is up. Schools are worse. Taxes are higher. I mean, be real. The way I would describe it, and I'm going to amend something I said before, this is not the new normal. This is the new abnormal.
Yeah, so I would appreciate, thank you, Jerry Brown. Old Jerry Brown seems like he keeps it relatively real. New Jerry Brown, I don't know. Who sees? Who knows, man? Seems very shady. But this is important because we play for you guys a clip of where Jerry Brown's talked about what's going on in California, how they're going ahead with things like Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. If you paid attention to what he said at the end there, before they switched to young, old, I guess young, old Jerry Brown. This is new old. I don't know. The older clip, right? When they switched to that, before they did, he said 10 to 12 years. If you guys do the math right now, that puts us right there on the cusp of Agenda 2030. Agenda 21 is right around the corner. So the clip, or the slide up that I have up for you guys, is from the UN. This is a simulated reserve and corridor system to protect biodiversity, as mandated by the Convention on Biological Diversity, the Wildlands Project, UN and U.S. Man and Biosphere Program, and various UN, U.S. Heritage Programs, and NAFTA. This is, why we're talking about things like the Paris Climate Accord and pulling out of these treaties and these types of things. This is globalization. If you look over where California is, and this is all of what it is to move people into population centers. The idea is to keep people in these smart cities, in these populated areas, to where they can be easily controlled. I think that's very dangerous. Now, I could go on and on about, what, again, because we have to look at what these things are going to bring. I think the devastation that's going on in California, it's going to bring, and I talked about this earlier this week on our Instagram story, it's going to bring these migrants. It's going to, these are the people that can come in right after, saying that they're disheveled, saying that they've got nothing, saying that, they lost their ID, they lost their papers. This is the perfect storm. That's what's crazy about it. There have been over 228 that still remain unaccounted, right? And I know that's a very small number, but that's in one area. This is going to spread. The town of Paradise is gone. Paradise, California is gone. This is devastating. Again, I find it strange that for a president that doesn't necessarily believe in environmental disasters, they're creating all these unnatural and abnormal disasters for him to respond to. You see, so that whoever does decide to come in after Donald Trump can correct these things and still move in alignment with Agenda 2030 and as well as Agenda 21. You see, I don't mean to politicize these types of things, but we have to look at what this all means. The idea is for deforestation, is to control, is to move people into these populated areas. You see, you know what? Here's what we'll do. I'll see if I can play for you guys the clip of Governor Jerry Brown talking about, I won't play for you all of it because it's a whole lot to kind of digest, but it'll be some of the things that he's talking about in response to climate change. And you got to think, again, with Trump announcing the Space Force, the weaponization of space, chemtrails, there was an article that popped up earlier this week talking about how the aluminum in people's brains is actually attributing, or it's causing more an increased rates of Alzheimer's. This is why they're trying to mess with our brains in so many different ways. This is why we've got to learn to take our health back, man. Like, I need to come up with a full regimen for people, but the point I'm trying to make is between the chemtrails, the spraying, and all the other weapons that they have at their disposal, we have to be aware of the tricks that they can pull. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean that it's not there. That's what the Fox News anchor said right there. The lasers, and while I play for you guys a clip of the laser shooting the electrical pole, the lasers are invisible. You won't be able to see them, as are a lot of the things that we deal with. For we wrestle not against flesh and bone, but against powers and principalities and rulers in high places. So I'm going to play for you guys this clip of Jerry Brown, who is in a high place, talking about his response to climate change. And again, this is something you have to think of. He's met with President Xi Jinping. He has gone to the UN. They are doing whatever is California is the most UN accordance state. Here we go.
As we've been reporting, rescue operations are still underway in the Carolinas. Incredible flooding there. Close to 1,000 water rescues have been made in North Carolina alone. The catastrophic flooding making travel impossible in some areas, and nearly 15,000 people are already staying in 150 shelters across the state. California's Governor Jerry Brown announcing late Friday, in the face of global warming, of climate change, and of what he calls the lack of a federal response, that the state of California is going to send its own satellite into orbit to track the progress of climate change, which of course is causing hurricanes to be stronger and more severe. I talked to Jerry Brown at his Global Climate Action Summit late Friday, a gathering of state, local, and world leaders.
We're in the midst of hurricanes and the aftermath of hurricanes, and you still have the President of the United States denying the science of climate change. How do you counteract that?
Well, first I want to say it's really extraordinary that the president can deny science like that. But he's done so many other what's the word? I don't even have an adjective. So it's bad, and how we counteract it is with this climate summit, with normal people respecting the truth and communicating that with other normal people, and combating the President of the United States in what are lies, distortions, and quite frankly bizarre behavior. So we have to keep at it, and I'm glad you gave me a chance to answer your question, because we can't say it enough. The President is just wrong.
The hurricanes are more severe. The wildfires are more severe. The storm surge is worse because sea levels are rising. Talk to me about what we are physically experiencing here in the United States and around the world that proves that everyone who predicted that this would happen was
correct.
Well,
I would say we're just experiencing the very early beginnings of climate change. The forest fires in California, which are worse than any other time in recorded history, it's really just, unfortunately, it's the beginning. But as the carbon builds up, and it builds up very rapidly, we'll have more drought, more fires, more storms, more intense storms, more trouble. And the worst part is more migration. We're going to have people moving from their land that will no longer produce enough food. So the world leaders have got to wake up.
Now, the exit from the Paris Climate Agreement isn't official and binding till 2020, but what is the impact already internationally of the United States having said we're out of it?
So Trump is an enabler. We often hear that term, enabler. He's an enabler of climate negligence and climate avoidance. So that's what's bad about it, because we have to make sure that all these other countries, whether it's Russia or Poland or South America, Brazil, whatever the heck it is, everybody's got to step up. And the President of the United States should be the cheerleader, the exemplar, and instead he's the saboteur. And that's tragic.
Here at the climate conference, you face protesters. The Democratic Party has divisions. How do you handle that? But some people say you're not even, despite your leadership on this issue, that you're not doing enough.
We're not doing enough. No one is. I do believe, though, we're doing more than anyone else, and that's not enough. So the protesters want to get the oil out of the ground, get it into the ground.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and let them have their little chit-chat. You guys can definitely go back and go listen to it. The point I'm trying to make by playing that with you guys is, again, look at where all these environmental disasters are taking place. They're happening over here on the coast, our East Coast and our West Coast. You're having fires over on the West Coast. You're having hurricanes on the East Coast and on our Panhandle. And you're also having these migrants now come from South America. They are literally trying to push people inland, okay? The idea behind all of this is to, again, have these smart cities, have these population centers, have these areas that are highly populated, have all this technology, have all this so-called wealth, and then everybody else outside of these areas will be living in these impoverished areas. As Governor Jerry Brown said right there, these people will be migrating from these places that will not be able to produce the amount of food that's required. It won't be sustainable. And there you hear that word again. It won't be sustainable. You got to think, these people, there were celebrities that lost their homes, and these days celebrities are about as good as crooked politicians. There were celebrities that lost their homes, like Gerard Butler and Miley Cyrus and a number of other people. These are also the people that raised like $20 million for Israel right before they hit the Gaza Strip. It's crazy. These celebrities are going to be the same people that are charioting the climate change, global warming, the green agenda initiative, and I'm all for it. I think the important thing about acknowledging all this stuff is looking at how it's been orchestrated, how your opinion has been manufactured, how they're trying to create your consent, causing all this chaos, orchestrating all of this chaos to get people into submission, you see. And that's what's crazy about it. Trying to put this together, I didn't even realize it, but I was starting to talk about, again, the concept of building the matrix. They are for sure destroying the exterior world to push us into this artificial reality, into this artificial world that they can control. Out here we have a semblance of freedom in this artificial reality that they're trying to foist onto us. That is where they will have ultimate control. But here's what's going to happen. because I have control. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about China's artificial sun, their virtual newsreader, the fact that they're cloning dogs and humans. The North and the South Koreans are cloning humans. Of course the Chinese are cloning humans. But they're just telling you that they're cloning dogs. And how by 2060 they will have humanity be sterile. But don't worry, Biohacks wants to implant you with thousands of microchips. This is the world that we're moving into, and this is why I'm trying to talk to you guys about all these various steps that they are trying to create. I know it sounds a little overwhelming, but I guess truth is stranger than fiction. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about this and more on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this. Whoa. Didn't see you there. But now that I do, thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being a part of Mar history. Mar. I said that. I said Mar. I was trying to say my, and then my brain said our, so I said Mar. Mauer. Mauer. Thank you to mine and ours. Thank you to history. We're here. We're doing this thing, and we're trying to do it well. I'm very giggly today. I'm very bubbly. I think it's because I was talking about the spirit of America at the start of the show. You know, the more we move into this, guys, the more I get informed, the more I do this, the more I try to diversify the work, the more sophisticated and professional I try to make this operation become, the more I find myself thinking about different things. I literally feel like I'm fighting time all the time. And that's a very, very powerful feeling. Purpose-driven work is one of the craziest feelings. And I wish I could share it with you people all the time. And I think the best way that I do is whenever I'm giggly and sometimes random. But we're not here to hear that. We are actually here for a show. Just got to finish it out. Let's do it. All right, so we're talking about this virtual reality, this artificial reality, this matrix that they're trying to put us into, right? That's the whole reason as to why I'm here. I was afraid of being replaced. I was afraid of the machines taking over, right? And, you know, I thought, hey, what's something that the machines can never emulate? Conversation, discussion, hearty discussion. So I decided to build this podcast and create this thing where we could discuss all these ideas. But now I may be out of a job. There is now the reality of a Chinese virtual newscaster. Check this out.
Hello, everyone. I'm an English artificial intelligence anchor. This is my very first day in Xinhua News Agency.
The AI clones were developed by China's state news agency and can deliver news in English or Chinese as words are typed into the screen. The AI's anchor's voice, lip, movements, and expressions are...
Hello, you're watching English news program. I'm AI news anchor in Beijing. Panama's participation in the ongoing China International Import Expo is showing its potential as a port of entry for China into Latin America.
The AI clones made their debut at the World International Conference. Chinese tech giant Sogu was involved in the system's development. The use of AI presenters could help producing news production.
The development of the media industry calls for continuous innovation and deep integration with the international advanced technologies. I look forward to bringing you the brand new news experiences.
That wasn't real, okay? What you were hearing right there, that was not a person. That's why it's strange. And if you guys, for our audio listeners, you didn't see how creepy it was. It looked like a person, but it wasn't a person. It was strange. You know, you're literally seeing, and this is what's even more wild if you think about it. This is why things like facial recognition technology is out there. This is why they're trying to, again, get people into this matrix so they can just create like an amalgamation of like a face when it's not really a face. This is the mark of the beast, okay? He'll be able to show you whatever you want to see. Says whatever it's told to. Chinese state news agency creates virtual news reader. This is from Planet Free Will. We put this up November 8th. It says fake news, just got a little more fake. China's state-run Xinhua News has created virtual news readers that are modeled after real humans and will say whatever they are told to, reports the Express UK. In a world first, a Chinese state news agency has created a virtual news reader that works 24/7 and says whatever it is told to. The AI's looks are closely modeled on a real news anchor, and its lips are matched to the frame each word when it is programmed to come out of its mouth. The agency jokes that he works 24/7 without taking any overtime. Xinhua News claims that the presenter can read text as naturally as professional news anchors. You can be the judge as to whether you think the AI say anything to those viewing the news. Newsreaders can actually present information as naturally as real as humans, but as Michael Woodridge, a professor at University of Oxford, weighed in, quote, it's quite difficult to watch for more than a few minutes. It's very fiat, very single-paced. It's got no rhythm, no emphasis, and if you're just looking at it, you're looking at an animation, and you've completely lost connection to the anchor. Noel Sharkey, a robotics professor at the University of Sheffield, was more impressed with the fake news, with fake anchors. Now, what I'm trying to say, I don't care about whether or not you're impressed with it. What I'm trying to say is this is Obey Big Brother. This is their cure to fake news. This is why we're skeptical about going in a video, because then that means they have our face. Then they can make me say whatever. This is why it's important to have privacy, identity, your own self. This is why you don't see the whole my face slide, because this is the end goal for them to create a version of you, a digital version that could run amok in the physical realm or cause havoc for you in the physical realm. And we've talked about this before too, how with Google's selfish ledger, how the idea is to feed it constant information, and once you've been able to feed it as much as you can, the selfish ledger takes over you and then begins to seek out other forms of information. It's crazy. And it starts with things like this, with their virtual news reader. Oh, but don't worry. Don't worry, my good friends. It gets even crazier. This is the building the matrix that I am trying so desperately to warn people about. This is why they want you to have an avatar. This is why they want you to care more about your digital presence and your digital political, socio-political aspect than your spiritual self. This is why I started the show talking about the spirit of America, the spirit of freedom. It should be running through you. Remember, no law can give you freedom, okay? No law can liberate you. You liberate yourself. But to get back to point, back to this artificial world that they are creating, the matrix that they are trying to usher us in. Now, in the last segment, I talked about it, right? How with chemtrails, the spraying, not the weaponization of our environment, but just the destruction of it. I mean, just last week we talked about how they're trying to bioengineer mosquitoes to go into the crops to change those. And you're like, wait, what? So, wait, what? What's going on? Now, and you have the UN calling for chemtrails too. You have the CIA director, former CIA director, John Brennan, talking about stratospheric aerosol injections and things such as solar radiation management. Their whole idea with this is to spray chemtrails, to spray this aluminum, the barium, and the strontium in the sky so heavy that it blocks out the radiation from the sun. But don't you worry, China is working on creating an artificial sun. I'll try to read you guys the caption, but here, we put this up November 14th. It's from End Times Headlines, but let's play this video, get those captions rolling. This is in Anhui, China, November 12th, 2018. Has made an important breakthrough by achieving an electron temperature of 1 million degrees Celsius in plasma and running under such a temperature for almost 10 seconds, the East team announced on Monday. They're creating a sun. The research team said that by using various heating techniques, the heating power reached 10 megawatts. The accumulation energy in plasma increased to 300 kilojoules, and the electron temperature reached 100 million degrees. We accomplished a high-density H model beta non-inductive steady-state operation. By analyzing the physical integration, we can meet the future fusion reaction in terms. The East has a weight of 11 meters and a diameter of 8 meters, is aimed at providing clean energy by inducing deuterium. Okay, there's no way I was able to read all that. But I'm going to go ahead and get into this article right here where it talks about how they are creating an artificial sun, an artificial celestial body. Just weeks after we learned that the country was making a fake moon, we learned that its Earth-based simulator is producing temperatures of 100 million degrees Celsius. The core of the actual sun reaches about 15 million degrees Celsius, so this artificial sun is considerably hotter. But scientists believe that this is around the minimum temperatures needed to create conditions sustainable for nuclear fusion. At 100 million degrees Celsius, it's possible to force charged deuterium and tritium particles together to get them to fuse. Usually these particles repel each other, making fusion impossible without massive internal temperatures. Deuterium and tritium are isotopes of hydrogen, and there's a plentiful supply available to use. One company, Tokamak Energy, claims that it's possible to create fusion reactors for power generation by 2030. So again, we're seeing this hint towards 2030. Agenda 2030, the idea of creating sustainable development, of selling free energy, of creating this world that's kind of run on technology. You see, this is why they want to promote autonomy. This is why they want to not necessarily break down reality. But you see this with Google's Sidewalk Labs. Bill Gates bought a plot of land out there in Arizona to build his own smart city. Saudi Arabia's Prince Mohammed bin Salman talked about creating a plot of land 33 times the size of New York that's devoted to all that, just to the smart city concept, with robots, automation, everything. There are places in Colorado that are doing it. There are places all over America that are committing to this idea of sustainable development, of renewable energy, of getting in line with the New World Order. You see. Now, we have to take a brief detour to talk about this type of stuff. You know what? Before we take this detour, and why we have to talk about this stuff, and since we are talking about China, I'm going to play for you guys this clip of this Chinese journalist that was banned. I wanted to play it at the start of the prophetic politicking segment, because this is the mark of the beast style system, to where they're able to basically unperson you. This is why censorship is so dangerous and deplatforming is so dangerous, and China is a shining example of the technocracy and what they're trying to create. I'll play for you guys this clip, and then I'll play for you, how they're going to start cloning people and things like this as well. But that's the idea. They want to silence dissenters. They want to silence people who are actually here to inform people. You see, this is why you're having these people who are saying they're here for revolutionary things. They're actually doing a reverse coup. This is like a criminal cabal reverse coup. Sounds like some kind of like some kind of swimming trick. The criminal cabal reverse coup. Do it, bro. They're doing all this to bring us into a new dark age. They don't want people to be able to exchange information and talk about these types of things. They don't want an armed and informed population. But I digress. I'm going to play for you this clip of the banned Chinese journalist, and then we'll go into how they're cloning people and what that means for actual humanity and civilization.
Male or female? Ken Dawaskin has studied China's economic and political culture from when Leo Hu recently tried to book a flight. He was told he was banned from flying because he's on the list of untrustworthy people. Leo was a journalist who was ordered by a court to apologize for a series of tweets he wrote, and was then told his apology was insincere. I can't buy property. My child can't go to private school, he says. You feel you're being controlled by the list all the time. And the list is now getting longer, as every Chinese citizen is being assigned a social credit score, a fluctuating rating based on a range of behaviors. It's believed that community service and buying Chinese-made products can raise your score. Fraud, tax evasion, and smoking in non-smoking areas can drop it. China's growing network of surveillance cameras makes all of this possible. It can recognize more than 4,000 vehicles.
Xu Li is the CEO of SenseTime, one of China's most successful artificial intelligence companies. It has created smart cameras for the government that can help catch criminals, but also track average citizens.
You can tell whether it is an adult, a child, a male or female.
Ken Dawaskin has studied China's economic and political culture for more than 3 decades. He says how the new scoring system truly works is kept secret and could be easily abused by the government. How far into people's daily mundane activities does this go?
Well, I think that the government and the people running the plan would like to go as deeply as possible to determine how to allocate benefits and also how to impact and shape their behavior.
The fear, of course, is that the government may use this social credit scoring system to punish people that it deems not sufficiently loyal to the Communist Party, and trying to clear your name or fight your score is nearly impossible because there is no due process. Ben Tracy, CBS News, Beijing.
There is no due process. Where have we heard that before? That is sketchy. There is no due process. They go ahead and put you on that list. You ain't getting off. Check this out. Here's a perfect example of how they have already implemented it into your day-to-day life. Here's a little clip of China's dystopian technocratic society.
Dear passengers, people who travel without tickets or behave disorderly or smoke in public areas will be punished according to regulations, and the behavior will be recorded in the individual credit information system. To avoid any negative record of person operated, please follow the relevant regulations and help with the orders on the train and at the station.
Obey, or we are going to get you. You better obey. Oh, wow. And I know that's a very simple, it's very, very simple, but that's how it starts. Because now, I can't even talk about certain things without being censored. So what happens whenever I'm considered insincere, or I get labeled as an untrustworthy person, or I get punished, right? And I'm going to play for you guys another clip, and then we'll get into this Chinese cloning and how, you know, Biohacks, this company, is injecting, it's already injected, or as they say, installed 4,000 chips into its customers. But here is Aaron Russo, and this is classic Alex Jones. This is why he was known before he became this kind of propaganda arm for Trump. You know, and I get it, but this is classic Alex Jones exposing the New World Order. Here's Aaron Russo talking about the dangers of the RFID chip.
The goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one world government run by the banking industry, run by the bankers, where and they're doing it in sections. The European currency, the euro, and the European Constitution is one part of it. Now they're trying to do it in America with the North American Union, right? And they want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is getting me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, the ultimate goal that these people have in mind,
they'll just take
the
it.
Goal to,
and you guys can go see that full clip. It's like 8 minutes. It's on our Instagram TV, because it's really, really powerful stuff. I think people really, really should watch it. I'm going to put that link in the description bar below so you guys can go watch it. It's really, really powerful stuff. And I know this is stuff that we talk about, but it's good to understand how that's the future. That was the future that we are living in now. And it ran up on us pretty fast, and people don't understand what that means, you see. And so for everybody that comes after, right, this is why I have such this is why I look at things in the way that I do. With the RFID chip, the mark of the beast, the cloning, humanity, reality, what is happening to us? They are distorting so much. That's why biblical prophecy is important, as much as people don't want to talk about it. You know, but again, how does this tie in, the RFID chip, the mark of the beast? Well, if they can't chip you, they'll clone you. And what I mean by that is, look at people, look at when we talk about people that have to sell themselves out to the system or sell their soul to the devil, you know, and we talk about these clones that are out there. You see what I'm saying? The chip is just the same. And unfortunately, we have dookie brains like Kid Boo, who are out there promoting and popularizing the idea of getting chipped. But let's go ahead and get into the concept of human cloning. Now, this is something we put up on basically Halloween. Humans next. China has cloned over 20 different dog breeds. And this is them slapping you in the face, saying, hey, yes, we're cloning dogs. We've talked about it time and time again. But how long until we are actually clone people? And how long until all of that stuff starts to break down?
Are we a step closer to human clones? The question has been raised after scientists in China produced two genetically identical monkeys. Zhongzhong and Huahua are the first primates to be cloned using DNA transfer, the same technique which produced Dolly the sheep 20 years ago. And now scientists plan to create more genetically identical monkeys. And we're talking populations, not just one or two. They say these monkeys will help with future research into human diseases, but campaigners fear the experiments could lead to human cloning, an idea that raises many ethical and moral questions. Activists also claim the tests involve unacceptable levels of animal cruelty. The scientists have even allegedly admitted that their work has resulted in the abnormal development and death of many monkeys. Zhongzhong and Huahua were the result of 79 attempts. The cloning process involves transferring cell nucleus DNA.
79 attempts. 79. Think about that. Think about that, gang. 79 attempts. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but how many times did your mom and dad try to get you. And these are the time frames that we're in. No, it sounds silly, but what happens if you don't even have to worry about a mom or dad, right? What happens whenever they are literally able to design you as a fetus or as an embryo? Kind of wild. Or is that 2018?
The reality of creating your ideal baby is closer than ever before, if you wish. While controversial technology could help prevent a baby of having certain genetic defects, critics are saying the implications could have a far worse effect on society. RT's Trini Chavez brings us the story.
If you're a potential parent planning on having a baby, you might be able to use genetic testing to choose your child in what some are calling a designer baby. But as technology advances, soon parents might even be able to choose embryos based on what sort of hair color or eye color they want their child to have, sparking both moral and ethical concerns. Prospective parents already use DNA testing to check for potential genetic abnormalities that could lead to serious conditions. While critics say the manipulation of DNA poses huge ethical and moral concerns, the method is garnering the support of lawmakers and medical experts. Dr. James.
With recent advancements in genetic engineering, the reality of creating...
It does matter. And while we're here, because all of this stuff is still important, and that's why I'm, hitting you rapid fire with so many different things, is because we have to look at everything that we are being faced with. The majority of men in the United States and Europe will be infertile by the 2060. This is done by the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, right? And we've talked about this time and time again. This is why they're putting all the chemicals in the water. This is why they're spraying the aluminum, the barium, and the strontium. This is why they're having all this stuff bioaccumulate in the earth. This is why they're trying to feed us GMOs. If you believe that if you believe GMOs are good for you, I got a bridge to sell you. There's so many different things that we have to look at that we are being faced with, and why this is why they're trying to push, again, the transgender movement. I talked about this whenever New York Mayor Bill de Blasio signed that Gender X birth certificate thing. What if this is their way of admitting that with all these chemicals, that whole chemical cocktail I just listed over there, they're talking about putting lithium in the water as well to make you feel comfortable towards migrants, to get away. They said they wanted to put lithium in there to help with xenophobia, so you could feel loving towards things that were new. It's to make you docile. It's to pacify you. This is why I have a problem with all the drugs. Again, Monsanto and Bayer are going to start making marijuana. I cannot stress that enough. That is dangerous. We're smoking chemicals. We're eating chemicals. We're drinking chemicals. So yes, the majority of men in the U.S. and Europe will be infertile by 2060. And when you mix in all the stuff, the soy milk, people being beta male cucks, society not really, endorsing or advocating for men to be men, women to be women, we're just kind of, meshed them together to make this androgynous society. Yes, we will be infertile. There is so many different factors that come into this. Let me go ahead and get into this article. We put this up November 12th. It's by News Punch, or it's by Baxter Dimitri of News Punch. It says sperm count in men from North America, Europe, and Australia is declining so quickly that most men in these countries will be infertile by the year 2060, according to the disturbing new research from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Sperm count in men from Western countries plunged by 50 to 60% between 1973 and 2011, according to that new study, with the trend set to continue until men are completely infertile. Interestingly enough, the study, which analyzed the data on the sperm counts of 42,935 men, found no decline in sperm counts in men from Africa, South America, and Asia. Part of the world that is less dominated by big pharma, GMOs, and toxic commercially processed food. And I say that in air quotes. Chris Barrett, the professor of reproductive medicine at Dundee University, says, quote, "Overall, this is a very disturbing report." I agree. There has been a long-standing debate among scientists as to whether sperm counts have decreased or not. But what's different about this study is the quality of the analysis. It was done in a systematic manner, accounting for several of the problems that had affected previous studies, such as the method used to count sperm and comparing studies performed sometimes decades apart. As such, most experts agree that the data presented is of high equality and that the conclusions, although alarming, are reliable. So what's going on? Well, I just told you what's going on. They're poisoning us. That's the simplest way to tell you. They're poisoning us. They're poisoning you. This is why we got to figure out ways to cleanse ourselves. This is why we got to detox. This is why we have to go through all these things. This is why they're killing holistic doctors. This is why we have to do these things. This is why taking your health back is important. This is why even though I am not a vegan, I will stand for the vegan movement and still not expose, but talk about these things. What is going on with the chemicals that are being sprayed on the plants that the vegans are consuming? You see, like, this is all important stuff. This is why we're becoming sterile. Here, check this out. Another one. Gene-edited food is coming, but will shoppers buy? We're like literally in like a rock and a hard place. They're like spraying the chemicals or spraying the plants with chemicals, and then they're modifying the animals. It's just like, whoa, do you want like a gun to the face, or do you want like a knife to the heart? It's like, wow, like, is there any way for me not to get either one? That would be great. Let's take a listen. And this is a news report talking about the effects of gene-edited food.
These cows in California were spared a painful procedure. Dairy cows, like Holsteins, grow horns, and they're quite dangerous for human workers and also for their fellow cows, and so they're normally manually removed. Instead, scientists genetically remove their horns through gene editing. It's kind of a pair of molecular scissors, if you will, that you can tell to go and cut the DNA at a very precise location in the genome. And what that enables you to do is go in and very precisely alter one particular gene of the thousands of genes that make up the genome, and you can introduce useful genetic variations. Variations like soybeans edited to grow with more heart-healthy fat, or mushrooms that don't brown. It sounds like GMOs are genetically modified foods, but it isn't.
A lot of the consumer resistance to accepting GMO technology.
Okay.
These cows in California were spared.
I think that's the craziest thing to say, and to break it down, is that they genetically remove the horns. We've talked about this with CRISPR-Cas9, the gene editing tool, which allows for people to, as she said right there, with genes, with like scissors, just clip, and move the genes wherever you would like, and it's crazy. If they find out which gene grows horns, they take it out, and then boom, that cow doesn't grow horns anymore. That's simple. Hornless cows. What about like an udderless cow? Okay. What about like a tongueless cow? What about like a hornless bull? What about a wingless bird? A tailless lizard? What about, and this is, I'm throwing this all out there, guys. What about a crocodile with stork wings? Yeah. What about a chimera? Let's just go ahead and get there. What about a sphinx? What about a manticore? You see, what about a transhuman? What about a hybrid? And for the 90s babies that are listening, what about an anamorph? What if I could just, some kind of hybrid? What if I could just merge myself with the lion? In the Chinese zodiac, I'm a monkey. You see, what about a unicorn? And I see a lot of good occultic videos going out there that are explaining the unicorn symbolism that we're seeing right now, and how this is, to a degree, a sign of the Antichrist. What we are experiencing right now with this transhumanism, transgenderism, transspeciesism, transageism, with the trans agenda is just that, the elimination of humanity. I wanted to talk about how biohacks is implanting thousands of people, but I'm pretty sure people are very well aware of that. Very well aware of how many people are actually implanted. It's become trendy to scare people to get implanted, to give over your information. Some places like 3 Squares Market, we've reported on, they've actually required for your employment. Then you get all kind of benefits. That's the idea. The New World Order, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, I forget, I think it might have been the Economist magazine, but that's the idea. They want a chipped population. And it starts with these types of things. You see, I think what's crazy is we're talking about transhumanism, the New World Order, the ending of humanity, Mark of the Beast, all this stuff, because this is prophetic. This is not normal. No, this is not normal. No. You know, they talk about it even in the Bible too, where the fallen angels fell from heaven and they came into women. They talked about that as well, how the giants, those offspring, how they went forth to other women and then to other animals, to fauna, right? To animals, to creatures, to produce what we have as the Sphinx, as the Manticore, as the unicorn, as these strange things, you know. We are polluting, let's just get down to the basis of it, we are polluting our gene pool. You see, and this is why it's so dangerous, because we're trying to play God, and we're opening up Pandora's box, and we can't put that back in. Like we're not going to be able to do that. You see, and I want to end this episode talking about this type of stuff. Now, I had a lot of, let's just go ahead and say it, I had a lot of fools that commented that didn't really understand this, and that's great because that allows for me to discuss it. But a dark matter hurricane is on a collision course with Earth. The Earth is currently passing through a dark matter hurricane, and I say this with quotes. Scientists are predicting that the Earth will be battered by this dark matter hurricane for the next 1 million years. Now, when I talked earlier in the previous segment about this new dark age that we're moving into, right? Stan Lee unfortunately passed away at 95 on Veterans Day. I made the crazy assumption that, you know, more people cared about Stan Lee, who did provide fantastic heroes which help us redefine heroism and heroines, female heroes. Yes, the rise of that. Icons, models. You see, idols, basically. He died on Veterans Day, and you know, my family is a long line of veterans, so I support them. I feel like we're fighting our own war here, so I'm doing something else. We saw more people saying "Rest in Peace, Stan Lee" than people standing for I guess, you know, their heroes. What I'm trying to say is that symbolized to me that people care more about these fake heroes, and they're not fake because, you know, they mean so much to everybody else for generations, you know, than the actual people, than actual reality. We're abdicating the fake, and we're not really necessarily looking at the real. And I feel this is idol worship. Every human has its flaws. And the heroes, these are supposed to be people that people aspire to. My point is this, to tie it back into the dark matter hurricane, this dark age that we're moving into. We've been given our heroes. You know, we're trying to play catch up to, and this is why I have great people like Forbidden Knowledge on. We're trying to play catch up to history. We're seeing all these people that are etched in stone, the Sumerian tablets, all this stuff, this history where it talks about the great epics, people and time frames, right? We're in our own time frame. This dark matter hurricane, I believe that it's not the dark age, it's the energy of the dark age. We won't be there for 100 million years. That's crazy. It'll be here for a while. It'll be here until we figured out a way to get ourselves out. You know, and this is just my spiritual interpretation, my spiritual symbolic interpretation of this type of stuff. But let me get into this article. We put this up November 14th. It's from STHF Plan by Max Lavo. It says the Earth is currently passing through a dark matter hurricane. Scientists are predicting that the Earth will be battered by this dark matter hurricane for the next 1 million years. Scientists studying the nature of gravity and the movement of the stars and planets discovered that the space between galaxies contains something else that we can't yet account for. They have called that unaccountable something dark matter. It's an invisible and as of yet undetectable phenomena believed to make up the bulk of matter across the universe, according to a report by RT. While scientists have never directly detected dark matter, and they are not entirely sure what it is, they do know that something has to be there. And now scientists say that Earth is going through a dark matter hurricane. Now, I'm no scientist, and a lot of the scientists that we're talking about these days are really controlled. They're bought. The last time we covered dark matter, they talked about because it is undetectable, they're only able to detect the effects of this undetectable matter. It's like if you were able to, if it's like if somebody hits you with like a water wave, you're not able to detect the source of the water wave, even though it's your friend. You're just able to get hit with the water. That's a bad analogy, but they're able to detect the effects of this undetectable matter. Now, for someone like myself who does peer into all these types of very strange things, for exclusive members, you guys remember that time I covered ITEs, invisible terrestrial entities. This is a paper done by, or a program done by the Thunder Energies Corporation in Florida, where they were able to observe what they were basically describing as conscious, invisible matter moving around, and just ghosts, basically. They were able to say that they detect ghosts or spirits through a different spectrum of lens. When I think of dark matter, I think of things like that. We might not be able to detect it, but there is something there, and it does affect us. And as I talked about before at the start of the show, with the spirit that is working right now, people are either charged or people are turned off. This dark age that we're moving into is just that. You're going to have a whole lot happening. Okay, we're transitioning into a paradigm shift. We're transitioning into a different age. This is why politics is happening. This is why technology is here. This is why so much is happening. This dark matter is literally like a cosmic, I feel like, representation of just what is manifested, what people could feel coming. But let me get back into this article. It says, published in Physical Review D, a study led by Sierra and O'Hare from the University of Zaragoza in Spain looked at a collection of nearby stars moving in the same direction known as the S1 stream. These are believed to be the remnants of a dwarf galaxy that was swallowed by the Milky Way billions of years ago, a statement from the APS Physics noted. The S1 stream consists of 30,000 stars, was found last year by ESA's Gaia satellite, which is mapping 1 billion stars in our galaxies. About 30 such streams have been found in our galaxies, each the remnant of a previous collision. S1 is particularly interesting, however, in that it is currently blowing past us at 500 kilometers or 310 miles per hour or per second. And the researchers said that this may produce noticeable effects on dark matter. Our solar system lies directly in S1's path, but despite the fact that it contains 30,000 stars or so, we're not due for a cosmic knockout anytime soon. So if you guys want to go check out the website, go look up the article, go read some of the comments. Go do so. That's just my interpretation. You know, I truly do believe, to wrap up this episode and try to come full circle, I believe that we are seeing a crazy cosmic shift take place. The spirit of America is alive and well, for sure, and it's being smothered. It's being attacked. People are being attacked. And there's also other spirits working out there. As I said before, you know, we wrestle against not flesh and bone, but, you know, principalities and rulers and powers and high places. And we're seeing that all unfold. The cosmic battle that's unfolding here every single day that we're having to try to talk about, it's crazy. It is crazy. And that's what I find so mind-blowing. If you are bored, you are not paying attention. And this is what they want you to do. This is why to talk about, you know, again, real quick, the drugs, the big pharma. This is why they want you desensitized, denaturalized, and demoralized. They don't want you paying attention to all this type of stuff, because when you pay attention to it, you're informed, you're alive, you're awakened. I'm here trying to tell you to wake up. They want you to be asleep, to play their little game. And the best way for you to win is to not play at all. However, that's all I really have for you guys.
Tell me one thing. You're going out there to destroy them, right? Not to study, not to bring back, but to wipe them out.
However, that's all I really have for you guys and gals. I know I kind of went all over the place, talked about a few different things, and really kind of rambled on a few different topics. But it's important that we get a comprehensive view not only of what we're facing today, but what it means long term. When you're looking at this type of stuff, there really is no easy way to approach it. As you can tell, we're trying to step up our efforts, not only for you good folk, but for the world as well. You kind of get to a point to where you just like absolve yourself of yourself and step into, you know, again, the work that you're supposed to be doing, the magnum opus. However, that's all I really have for you guys and gals. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. And remember, guys and gals, stay vigilant, expose lies, and share truth. This is Noise Era, Freedom Faction, out.